On August 13th of 2017, a tropical wave would form off the coast of Africa. Before reaching the Leeward Islands, this storm would strengthen to become Hurricane Harvey. In the next 48 hours, the storm would fall apart, but as the weather system continued its trek toward Texas and entered the Gulf of Mexico, it literally exploded into a massive hurricane. The Texas coast had gone almost 9 years without a hurricane, but now this growing storm was zeroing in on the state. The National Weather Service office in Corpus Christi began warning coastal residents that Harvey would become a major hurricane. The brunt of the storm would miss Corpus Christi, but hit Rockport on the evening of August 25th with full force.
It continued to strengthen all the way up until landfall, and in fact, if it had another 6 to maybe 12 hours, it maybe could have reached Category 5. The most intense, the strongest winds occurred on the front side, where we saw peak gusts of 140, even another peak gust 150 miles an hour were measured at 10 meters during the storm.
While Harvey's winds were causing catastrophic damage to the coastal bend, its outer bands had been dumping heavy rains in South and Southeast Texas. With the storm slowly moving eastward, the heavy rainfall continued.
The storm did stall and meander once it moved up over Goliad County, and then it kind of slowly moved back out over the Gulf of Mexico, and then made a second landfall again along the upper Texas coast. And so it just kept focusing the heavy rain bands over those same areas across southeast Texas for days and days and days. And so that is the result of the record rainfall.
The National Weather Service had predicted that Harvey would produce huge rainfall amounts in excess of 40 inches, and they were right. Nederland, located just outside Beaumont, would receive a national record of more than 60 inches of rain. The record rains produced massive flooding, and the world's eyes were now focused on Houston and how the country's fourth largest city had become submerged. The unbelievable photos of massive flooding and the heroic actions of rescuers saving lives moved the national spotlight from where the storm had initially made landfall to where residents were now scrambling for higher ground. Record rainfall amounted to record flooding in a 200-mile stretch from LaGrange to Port Arthur. A total of 52 Texas counties would be placed under flash flood warnings during Harvey. The area would remain underwater for days as the rain continued to fall. When the remnants of Harvey finally moved out of the state, thousands of homes had been destroyed. 90% of the insurance claims from Hurricane Harvey would come from Houston and Southeast Texas. $250,000 insured cars and trucks were covered with floodwaters in Southeast Texas. These vehicles would ultimately be towed to nearby racetracks and other areas where they would be auctioned off for their parts and scrap metal. The insured losses from all of these flooded vehicles would exceed $3.5 billion. But back in Rockport and Port Aransas, where Harvey first made landfall, the damage from Harvey's winds was catastrophic.
The sustained winds of 135 miles an hour for about 5 hours in one direction, and then sustained of 130 for 4 hours in the other direction, just wiped out things here in Aransas County that's been here forever. Oak trees laid over.
Embedded in the hurricane were tornadoes. The National Weather Service confirmed 28 tornadoes were spawned by Hurricane Harvey. Many people who did not evacuate in Port Aransas and Rockport may have experienced these tornadoes firsthand.
Everything went kind of quiet, but you could still hear the roar, and the house tipped a couple of times, and then it just started raising up. And about a 4 count is what I counted. 1 in 1,000, 2 in 1,000, 3 in 1,000, 4 in 1,000. The house dropped.
Rockport 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Am I going to survive this? That's all I need to know, really.
I think you
I
will.
have my water, I have my food.
I think you'll be fine.
The front of the trailer just blew off.
This was one of several calls that Rockport's 911 operator Jennifer Bostic tried to help.
I don't know anybody that this storm didn't affect in the 911 center. One certain call, one certain person that they spoke to, they all get to you at some point. I got closure on that call last week when I finally found him, and to know that he's okay. He barely made it, but at least I had some closure on that. But they take a toll on you.
In Port Aransas, John and Molly Nixon decided to ride out the storm in their shrimp boat, the Pollyanna. Their boat was firmly tied to the dock at City Marina, but not for long. Their boat, now in open water, began turning in circles.
He started hollering. He said, "Oh my God, what is that?" And he looked out the window, and the whole cove was swirling. We was in a tornado.
30 miles inland in Refugio, Emergency Management Coordinator Stan Upton was bunkered down in the county courthouse, which was rocked from the winds.
Well, during the storm, there were several lightning flashes, and we were ripping the paneling off the walls to put into the windows. And a gentleman that was by me said, "Did you see that?" And I told him no. He said in that flash of lightning, which was extended for a few seconds, he estimated seeing about 30 tornadoes in this area.
For those who were flooded, the floodwaters finally receded, and homeowners had the nasty task of removing their damaged carpet, clothing, furniture, and household belongings. The debris piles from Hurricane Harvey were staggering. In the coastal bend, the hurricane storm surge reached 12 feet, which pushed boats, cars, and other objects up to a mile inland. But it was the wind damage that was devastating.
I've seen some bad things in my life. I was in Vietnam in 1968, but I've never seen anything like this. And when it's your home, it's devastating, even more devastating. When it's your community, it's heartbreaking.
The Port Aransas school system was severely damaged. It would take a month for the classrooms to reopen. City officials knew they had to get their school system back open to bring the city back to life.
We'll be back, and I know the mayor feels strongly about the people that make up Port Aransas. We were focused on the school because we knew that for the town to survive, the community, the sense of community had to survive, and the first part of that was the school.
Housing was and will be a huge issue because so many homes and apartment complexes were destroyed.
Our primary goal through the Stafford Act is to get people into safe, sanitary, secure environments, and we are working diligently with the state to get that in place. It's not a quick and easy fix.
Port Aransas Mayor Charles Bouillon agreed that housing was the city's biggest dilemma, but the city would come back.
Our people are resilient. We're island people. We live on an island. We know what the sea can do. We know that someday it's going to happen, and it did. We've been calling for this someday for 47 years, and it finally happened. And it was a bad one. It was not just a typical hurricane. It was a very bad, catastrophic hurricane.
The mayor, whose family has called Port Aransas home since the 1800s, lost his house and his business in the storm. Next door in Rockport and Fulton, it's going to take time for the city's wounds to heal.
We're hurt bad, and it's going to take a while to recover. And the folks that are here, that Rockport, Fulton Strong, those folks are out there. They're going to rebuild. I had a little bit of damage at my house, but I'm okay. I got a roof over my head, and there's a lot of people in Aransas County that are a lot worse than me.
We'll rebuild, and we'll be stronger. We'll be better. But it's going to take years to do it.